You'll get so used to seeing me here, you won't need to expend that much energy every week, but know that I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before we do anything else, please introduce yourselves to the people who are around you, to your right, to your left, in front of you, and behind you, and hello to everybody on live stream. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much. All right, you guys ready? Give me just a minute. I think I picked up the wrong Course in Miracles. Hold on one second. Post-its are such a wonderful thing when you have them, and you miss them so much when you don't. This is so bizarre. Give me 1 second here, because I had this. Okay, give me 1 second just so that I can totally know what I'm doing when we're doing it. Give me 1 sec.
Take your time, we know it'll be good.
Well, I don't know. I had a page folded over. Damn. Wendy, would you come help me with this, please? Thanks so much. I had 2 pages turned over. Will you help me? Thanks. Forgiveness is my function, is the light of the world. I found it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. If I get applause for that, you were really nice. All right, let's do it. Please take a deep breath and close your eyes. We see in the middle of our mind a little ball of golden light. And we watch this light as it begins to grow, larger and larger, until now it covers the entire inner vision of our mind. And we see for ourselves within this light a beautiful temple. And we see a garden that surrounds the temple and a body of water that flows through the garden. We see that the inside of the temple is lit by this same beautiful golden light. And here we are, for we have been drawn together by the power and in the presence of God. We devote our time spent together, all of our relationships to one another, to Him. We pray that His most Holy Spirit be upon us, thus lifting us above and beyond fear, sorrows, and limitations of this world to the love and to the peace that lay beyond. And so it is. Together, we all say, Amen. Principles are basic, as we talked about last week. Growing more advanced from a spiritual perspective doesn't mean you become more complicated. It means we become more capable of taking very simple principles, basic simple principles that you either already know or can learn very easily, and apply them more consistently. The world is complicated, but truth is not. The world is complicated, and our problem is when we allow ourselves to get lured into, tempted, sucked into the complication. We get lured into the field of the complication, and then we are at the effect of the facets and the aspects of the complication. You become more powerful in this world and more effective at navigating this world when you know that you are not of this world. Your essential self is not of the realm of the complication. So if your focus and your mental filter while in the world has to do with recognizing, by cognizing, recognizing the complication and thinking you're of it, you by definition cannot be empowered because you're not of it. The Course in Miracles says all of us have felt like aliens on this planet at times, and you have felt like an alien on this planet because you are. The real you is not of this world. The real you is of a world that is beyond this world. not a world that is beyond this one in time and space, because the real world exists in a realm which is not of time and space. The veil that divides us from the real world is not a physical veil, but a perceptual veil. Our power lies in removing the veil that hides the light from us. Because when we remove the veil that hides the light, because we are the light, we are then at home. But the only way I can remove the veil that hides the light in me is if I'm willing to remove the veil that hides the light in you. We can only have what we are willing to give, and we always receive whatever we gave. The real world, with a capital R, is 180 degrees away from the world that is revealed by the thinking of this planet. So the mind is split in two. It is as though there are two parallel universes. One is real, one is not real. The one that is real spiritually, the Course refers to as real with a capital R. The world that appears to be real, but is not actually real, the Course refers to as real with a little r. The problem is, this world calls the unreal world the real world. And this world calls the real world unreal. Nobody can decide for you where you choose to dwell. No one can decide for you where you choose to build your house. No one can decide for you where you wish to headquarter while you're on this planet. When you wake up in the morning is when your mind is open to new impressions. If when you wake up in the morning, you just download all the stimulation of what is essentially an unreal world, you will not be comfortable in your skin because you will think that you are your skin. You can't be comfortable in your skin if you identify with your skin. The only way to be comfortable in your body is to know that you're not of your body, to know that you are not your body. When you know that you're not your body, then your body, the Course in Miracles says, is like a precious suit of clothes, and you're grateful for it, but you know that your physical birth was not the beginning of your life, it was the continuation of your life. And your physical death will not be the end of your life, it will be the continuation of your life. The Course in Miracles says that enlightenment is a shift in self-identification. A shift in self-perception from body identification to spirit identification. As long as I think I am my body, I am tied to the perceptual mechanism of the unreal world. When I recognize that I am not my body, I'm very grateful to my body, we love our body, all of that stuff. The Course in Miracles says the body itself is not bad. The body is holy or unholy as determined by the purpose the mind ascribes to it. The Course in Miracles is not about the quote-unquote unreal world being bad. It's that it is of itself nothing. It is holy or unholy depending on the purpose the mind ascribes to it. To the extent to which we stand within the body with the purpose of using the body for purposes of the extension of communication and love, to that extent, the body becomes a beautiful tool, a beautiful thing that is helpful to us in our mission on this planet. To the extent to which we over-identify with the body, thinking that that is in essence who we are, the Course in Miracles says that puts a stress on the body, that the body was not meant to carry, and that is the cause of illness. In order to be healthy, we want to dwell more lightly within the body. Now, how do we escape this prison, this perceptual prison, which is the ego's thought system. The Course in Miracles says that this thought system has dominated the planet for ages and ages and ages. There has been no mass awakening. The Course in Miracles says in the Bible, it says that Adam fell asleep, and nowhere does it say that he woke up. There has been no mass awakening, but it is time, the Course in Miracles says, to now initiate one. Because in humanity's sleep state, dreams have come, and these dreams, in many cases, have now turned into nightmares. So a mass awakening on the part of the human race from a spiritual perspective is the name of the game, is the zeitgeist, is the impulse of this moment. And we contribute to the awakening of the world by being awake ourselves, but we cannot be awake ourselves without willingness to be awake to each other. You know, most of us have experienced, we've either been the person saying it or the person at the effect of someone saying it, usually both, which is this attitude: I don't have time for this, I don't have time for a relationship, I can't, get out of my way, I am seeking God. Right? Have you ever felt that? Or I felt somebody else was basically, you weren't important because they were on their spiritual path. The Course in Miracles says, there is no love of God without love of each other. That God is, like in that lyric in Les Mis, to love another person is to see the face of God. You know, many years ago when I started A Course in Miracles, my experience when I first started reading the book, and the Course does not claim a monopoly on truth. There is one truth with a capital T. It is spoken many different ways, some religious, some spiritual, some secular, different ways. The Course does not claim to have a monopoly. It doesn't claim to be for everyone. If it's for you, you know it. For some of us, it's like, I want this material, I want to read the book, I want to do the exercises, I want the actual training of the mind that the Course puts forth. For some of us, we like listening to the ideas and so forth. But the issue that was true for me, that doesn't mean that this is true in some objective way, but for me, it wasn't like this was in the Course and it wasn't in anything I'd ever read. It was that for whatever reason, I hadn't gotten it till I read the Course. And that was, I felt I had read so many spiritual books and I had done so many things, and it felt to me kind of like I was in front of a huge cathedral and there was this huge flight of stairs. And I was seeking the peace of God. And I had climbed this whole flight of cement steps, and I was down on my knees, and my knees were bloody. I mean, I had gone through so much, and yet this image I had in my mind was that every time I got to the door, actually on top of the stairs, the door was locked. And when I started reading A Course in Miracles, I finally got why the door was locked. Most importantly, I got the key. And that's that it's the person in front of you. And sometimes you're like, them? Kind of like, maybe if I hang around for 5 minutes, it'll be somebody else. But no, it's that person in front of you, the person you are thinking of. Because as long as I am seeing guilt in you, I cannot see the innocence in myself. So let's go back a little bit. You want to dwell in the light. The light is the mind of God. You, according to the Course, are an idea in the mind of God. You are an idea in the mind of God. God is all that is. God is an idea. God creates by thought. We are an extension of God's thought. Since God is all that is, you cannot be different from the substance that is God. The Course in Miracles says the only difference between you and God is that God created you. You did not create God. You are an effect, God is the cause. That is the light. Light and understanding are the same thing. To say you dwell in the light is the same thing as saying you understand who you are. Who you are, light, another term, Son of God. Now, God, this line we've all heard, there is only one begotten Son. A lot of traditional Christians take the line, there is only one begotten Son, to mean that Jesus is it. From a metaphysical New Thought perspective, certainly from the Course in Miracles, there is only one begotten Son means we're all it. Only on the realm of the body are there billions of us. On the realm of spirit, and remember, the realm of spirit is beyond time and space. So on the realm of spirit, we are all one. There's no place where one of us stops and another of us starts. So any thought I have about you is a thought I'm having about myself. And any thought I'm having about myself turns into a thought about you. Now, remember what I said a few minutes ago. Our capacity to see through a spiritual filter makes us more effective, not less effective, in the mortal world. So in changing that mental filter, conversion, it's conversion of thought system, converting to a mental thought system based on fear, in which we base our evidence of reality on what our physical senses perceive, that shows us one universe. But that universe, because it is not based on love, does not actually exist. It is not actually real. And you say, but I know it's real. I can touch it. I know it's real. I can see it. I know it's real. My physical senses reveal it to me all the time. So this is what the Course in Miracles says. Only God is real, and God is love. And what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So when we are thinking without love, since only love or God is real, when we think without love, we're not actually thinking, we're hallucinating. And the Course in Miracles, Buddha calls it an illusion, and so does the Course. The Course says three-dimensional reality as you experience it is a giant mortal hallucination. The effects feel real while we're in it. You wake up in the morning, your mind is most open to new impressions. First thing you do, you turn on the computer, turn on the radio, turn on the TV, turn on your phone, whatever, and your mind will be bombarded, barraged by the evidence of the unreal. You cannot do this and be happy. So the mind that manufactures and maintains that illusion then tells you, oh, you're not happy? If you only had this little bit of the illusion, I bet you would be happy. If you only had that little bit of the illusion, see, the problem is you don't have enough money, or the problem is you don't have the right job, or the problem is you don't live in the right place, or the problem is you don't have enough sex, or the problem is you're not having sex with the right person, or the problem is you're, oh, by the way, did you know you're getting older and you will die? This is the constant grab it while you can. There's only so much to go around. Go out there and compete. Somebody's not going to let you have it. It's not good enough. You just ground yourself in this world. There is no peace to be found there. And so we keep making the screws tighter by thinking, oh, I can make my prison really pretty if only I had that right job, or if only I had that right money. And we talked about that last week, and all the voices say, you can make it happen. You can go out and make your dreams come true. All of that stuff, which appears so nice until you think about where it comes from. Because the only fact that you even think you need to make it happen is because you think that what's happening now is not enough. And so your core belief is that the world's not enough and you're not enough, and that's why you have to fix it and get more, see? And then the core belief remains that you're not enough, and no matter what you manifest, the Course in Miracles, it will never be enough. The Course in Miracles says salvation begins when we consider the possibility there might be another way. What's salvation? The only thing to be saved from is that mental filter that's driving you insane. That's the only thing to be saved from. Jesus as Savior, religion, spirituality as salvation. It is being saved from the thought system that is driving us nuts and giving us such despair. If in the morning, instead of going straight to the newspaper and straight to the worldly barrage, you ground yourself, you own your power. There is no ownership of your power without owning your spiritual power. Now, the Course in Miracles says all of the children of God are special and none of the children of God are special. That's a really wonderful juxtaposition, just that principle alone. You know, the Course in Miracles calls these principles, and why it's so exciting to sort of be here once a week and just like get these principles. The Course in Miracles says they are help in your problem-solving repertoire. So that's what these ideas become. They become ideas in your problem-solving repertoire. That's a good one. All of the children of God are special, and none of the children of God are special. So the Course in Miracles says, think of the people on the planet who have achieved the most. They have achieved a fraction of what each of us is capable of. Each of us has unlimited capability, and nobody's special. And that's a really profound, now remember, we only get to keep what we give away. So the mental filter of fear, and why do we say it's a mental filter of fear? We say it's a mental filter of fear because it's not the mental filter of love. And the Course in Miracles says love is to fear what light is to dark. You turn off the light, the fear sets in. The fear is not a, excuse me, you turn off the light, the darkness sets in. The darkness is not a thing, it's the absence of something. And same with fear. Fear is not a thing. But if you wake up in the morning and you don't proactively fill your house with light, darkness will be there. If you wake up in the morning and don't stand your ground, I am love, that is what I'm about, that's what I'm going to be about today, I'm only going out there to love people, that's my only function. Most people I will not mention this to, they would think I was crazy, they don't have to know. I'm not going to go into a meeting, my boss is going to ask me what my thoughts about something, I'm not going to say that I'm going to go pray about it and ask God what he thinks and I'll get back to him, but it will be my thoughts. And this is another interesting facet of you don't have to worry that a spiritual perspective will lower your IQ or make you less effective in this world or make you, like you're living in La La Land. It will make you more powerful. The Holy Spirit, which is the mind, one name for the mind that connects you to the truth of who you are while you're living in this insane world, makes you a finely tuned intuitional instrument and only gives you greater style. Like I said before, it gives you power navigating this world. It does not disempower you navigating this world because you remember the two things that are necessary for you to have power in any situation. Two things. Number one, who are you really? And why are you here? Who are you really is the same thing everybody else is. You are of the light. You are the Son of God. You are the child of God, by whatever names you call it. You are the light within you. You are the light within everyone. That is the meaning. Think of how many people have died because of a misinterpretation of this line. When Jesus said, "No man cometh unto the Father but through me," from a Course in Miracles metaphysical interpretation, he was speaking from that place. Jesus is one name, one name. The Course says it's not the only name. It is a name for that common reality. Imagine the spokes on a wheel, and imagine all the spokes, and then identify them with their place on the rim. If you identify all the spokes with their place on the rim of the wheel, then it seems like there are many, 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 many spokes. But if you trace the spoke down to the hub, the center point, they all begin at the same point. That is the essence of who we are. By the time you get to the rim, one's a woman, one's a man. One's a Jew, one's a Christian, one's a Muslim, one's a Hindu, one's a Buddhist. One's an atheist, one's an artist, one's a business person, one's a scientist, one's a teacher, one's a politician. But you go down beyond those levels of label, those levels on which we are different to the truth of who we are, you find that one being. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, said that if you go deep enough into your mind and deep enough into mine, there is mental imagery that we all share, right? He calls it archetypes. The notion of the Christ mind takes it one step further. Not only, if you go deep enough into your mind and deep enough into mine, are there archetypes that we share, if you go deep enough into your mind and deep enough into mine, it's the same mind. This is an interesting issue regarding intimacy. how much more intimate could we be than that we are each other? So we're going around trying to create intimacy, when really intimacy is something to accept. We are one. Now, the Course in Miracles says forgiveness is our function as the light of the world. Remember what we already said, your power in any situation, who am I, why am I here? Who I am is the light of the world. I'm no better than anybody else, I'm no worse than anybody else. That is so empowering. It's not that you deserve more than anybody else, but neither you deserve less than anyone else. Because we are, God loves us as one. The Course in Miracles says that we have arrogance and humility upside down because we have everything upside down. There just happens to be the power of God in you. Nothing for you to take personal credit for. It just happens to be in you and of you. It is blasphemous and it is actually arrogant for you to think any less about yourself. And it doesn't matter if you got it right yesterday, and it doesn't matter if you got it right 5 years ago, and it doesn't matter if you got it right 5 minutes ago. Who we are is not what we did. And that is why God loves us unconditionally. God loves us as who we are. And he does not see the times that we have deviated from that love, which of course we've done. We're taught to be insane. From the time we were very little, we were trained to think that we are who we aren't, and we aren't who we are, and we were taught that we're separate from everybody else, and we're taught that this is the world of scarcity, and you have to compete, and everything's very dangerous. Of course we've made mistakes. We had a childhood. And so did everybody else. But God looks at us on mercy, with mercy, and he does not see, the Course in Miracles says, our mistakes as sins to be punished. He sees our mistakes, the Course in Miracles says, as errors to be corrected. And this is because, at the deepest level, whenever we did anything that was not love, since only love exists, we actually didn't do anything. That's why in the introduction to the Course in Miracles, it says nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. God loves us for who we are. Think about the moments when you've made the worst mistakes that you've ever made. I don't know about you, but when I think about the things that I regret the most, I thought it was the right thing to do, or I was so at the effect of my own childhood and my own triggers, I didn't wake up that morning and just decide to do something really stupid that would have permanent effects on my life and the lives of others. That's not where we were. The vast, vast, vast majority of people. And the Course in Miracles would ask us to remember that about other people too, including those who have hurt you. So forgiveness is when we see, the Course in Miracles says, our function on this earth is to think as God thinks. And when we say your power in any situation is to remember who you are and why you are here. Who you are, we've already talked about. You are an extension of the mind of God. You are the light in the mind of God. You're no better than other people. You're no worse than other people. You've made mistakes. But the universe, which exists, the real universe, the real world, exists beyond time and space. So the universe literally holds nothing against you. Literally, in any given moment, on any given day, the universe is ready to start again. We keep the universe from starting again in our lives by, number one, not atoning for our own mistakes and not forgiving people for theirs. Now, why are you here? We already talked about who you really are. Why are you here? The Course in Miracles says we have a function. The fact we're depressed, so many people are depressed, the Course in Miracles makes it clear, this is a depressing world, because this world is constantly telling you that you're not who you are. And that you are who you're not. And you think you have the guilty secret that doesn't quite feel right. Like, hello, it doesn't feel right to the person next to you either. But they're afraid to say it just like you are, right? So the issue is, most of us, at some point or another, feel like we have this guilty secret, and that is, I could have sworn I was born for something important. And if you have a nagging suspicion you were born for something important, it's because you were. No more, no less than anyone else. So, what is your function? Your function is to go out into the world and be the light of the world. On any given day, at any given moment, you wake up in the morning, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? You take a shower, take a bath, because you don't want yesterday's dirt to be on your body when you saunter out into the world. But if you don't purify your consciousness the way you purified your body, the Course in Miracles says miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. What does that mean? The Course in Miracles says miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. So you're in a space of love, miracles are just going to happen wherever you are. You know, like in the fairy tales when the young maiden is going through the woods, and the deers come up and are nice to her, and the birds come up and are nice to her. You know, those fairy tales are so powerful. They are pure metaphysical truth. She represents the state of the innocent soul, and nature just goes her way. And the fairy godmother, i.e. the ego, bitch, will try to kill her and can't. Can't. Most she can do is put her to sleep, and that's what's happened on this planet. The real you cannot be uncreated, but a spell has been cast on us, and we have fallen asleep. And the prince awakens us. Hello. So when we are in line, you want to put yourself in the zone. If you don't put yourself in the zone in the morning, whether you're a student of the Course in Miracles or any other serious spiritual path, if you don't put yourself in the zone in the morning with serious prayer and serious meditation, don't be surprised that you're depressed by noon. Right? And once again, the world's answer for your depression is to just get more of the things somehow that make you depressed, ultimately. All right. So, you stand your ground. In the New Testament, there's a story where Jesus says you can build your house on sand or you can build your house on rock. You build your house on sand, the winds come, the rains come, and your house is blown away. You build your house on rock, the winds come and the rains come, and you remain firm. What does that mean? You build your house on sand. Well, whether they like you, whether you have this, whether you get that, building your house on sand means on the changeable things of the world. And then it doesn't go the way you wanted. They didn't act the way you wanted them to act. They didn't hire you. They didn't love you, whatever. And your house was blown away. Build your house on rock. Be very clear about who you are and why you are here. We've already talked about who you are. Why are you here? You are here with a function. You are here with a function. Now, the world, the ego, tells you, just decide what you want and go after it. We've already talked about what a trap that is. Rather, you are here on assignments. Every cell in the body has an assignment. You, the liver, you, the blood, you, the lungs, you, the heart, you, the feet, you, the skin, you, the bones. And each of us has an assignment. You incarnate in North America. You incarnate in Asia. You incarnate in Russia. You incarnate in South America. You black, you white, you Asian. You Jew, you Christian, you Hindu. You're going to be interested in the arts. you're going to be interested in law. You're going to be interested in politics. You're going to be interested in whatever. It's all in there. Just like every cell is divinely guided. Every cell is naturally guided. And when the cell separates itself for whatever reason, goes insane, and thinks, oh, I'm not here to fully actualize as what I am and collaborate with other beings to serve the healthy functioning of the whole, I'm just here to go out and do my own thing, we call that cancer. It is malignant in the body and it is malignant in consciousness. So we want to connect with the intelligence of nature. That is what prayer and meditation do. That is why in AA it's called conscious contact. You build conscious contact, you reconnect. We all have that connection. But because of the thinking of the world, there's so much static in the radio we can't hear it. In both Judaism and in Christianity, the term, as in the Course, is the small, still voice for God. And that's why you learn to quiet the mind. We were talking last week. You build physical muscles so you can move. You build spiritual muscles so you can be still and non-reactive and remember what you're here for. Now, the world will tell you, you were here because you have to get up in the morning and you have those sales meetings. You have that meeting over there because you work at a law firm. You have that patient over there because you're a therapist or you're a doctor or whatever. The Course in Miracles says that which would appear to be a different function of yours, different than the function of anyone else, is not the deepest level of your function. Just like anything that appears to be who you really are, that would be different than anybody else is not who you really are. At the deepest level, we're not black, white, straight, gay, man, woman, anything like that. At the deepest level. And at the deepest level, it's not like you're here to do this job and you're here to do that job and you're here to do that job. At the deepest level, we're all here with divine function to be what the Course in Miracles calls the ministers of God. Now, keep going back though. Remember, as you remember these things, it makes you more effective on the planet. It makes you more capable of inhabiting the role and honoring your incarnation. So this is not to make you powerless in the world. It is to connect you with your true power in the world, which has to do with the healing of the world. Now, as we've already mentioned, but this, even though, there's always you get it, we all get it, but this is where the rubber meets the road. I cannot dwell in light unless I'm willing to see the light in you. So just start with that as a principle. I cannot dwell in the light in myself, i.e., I cannot be comfortable in my own skin because I can't remember who I am. I can't be in my own mojo if I'm not willing to acknowledge the truth about you. So that means that if I base my perception of you on what my physical senses perceive, that might be a problem as I go throughout the day because you had a childhood too. You have triggers just like I do. You are at the effect of a crazy, stressed world just like I am. So my ego says my life will be really perfect when I meet people who treat me the way I want them to treat me all the time and act the way I want them to act. But because the universe is intentional and all that's going on here is that each of us are being given whatever experiences will lead us to our own enlightenment, i.e. full self-actualization. If all I meet are people who do exactly what I want them to do, exactly when I want them to do it, and are so nice to me, then that's great. I can be Miss Enlightenment. However, where's the growth in that if really what's happening is only that I am being met on the level where my own comfort zones lie? So since the universe wants me to grow into full self-actualization, the Course in Miracles says the universe is going to assign me. Every situation is an assignment. Every relationship is an assignment that represents for both or all people involved maximal growth opportunity. That doesn't mean it will always be fun, because by definition, you're going to always be rubbing up against my comfort zone. And my ego mind says, no, I have my boundaries and I need you to, and sometimes boundaries are appropriate, don't get me wrong. But the ego has its own ideas of ways that I need you to behave and you to be in order to be okay with me. Now that's not who God is going to send. The universe sends people into each other's lives, representing the maximal growth opportunity. I gotta stop right now. Once a woman is menopausal, we have permission. I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm cold. If there's not, is there air conditioning on now? Am I the only one up here who's hot? If there is, it's on? Okay, thank you. Other than that, just open the doors or something. Is that possible? I'm sorry, Jackie. It was really at the point where, I'm sorry. Every woman over 50 just knows that there are certain things that come with. Not just that we have to, but we can. We give our. Thank you. Huh? Is that? It's on. Okay. If you're okay, I'm okay. I just thought, what if other people are as stuffy as I am? Okay, we could open the door maybe, or something, do you think? I'm sorry. Consider that a little intermission. Where was I? Okay, stones, okay. So, when a rough emerald, a rough ruby, a rough sapphire, how do they get smoothed out? They get smoothed out either manually or electronically, being rubbed up against each other. And that's what relationships are. Relationships are where your issues rub up against my issues. Now, my function is forgiveness. The Course in Miracles says your function as the light of the world is forgiveness. There is no happiness without forgiveness. There is no self-actualization without forgiveness. Forgiveness in A Course in Miracles, you know, the Course in Miracles uses a lot of very traditional Christian words, but they're used in very non-traditional, really psychotherapeutically oriented ways. Forgiveness is an example. Usually when we think of forgiveness, we think, you did something that you really should not have done. But you know, I am very spiritual now. So, I forgive you. Now, the Course in Miracles points out what's obvious to everybody in the room. That's judgment. It's what the Course in Miracles calls forgiveness to destroy. And it is very much a shadow side to the spiritual seeker, this notion of spiritual superiority. I like it. People come up to me sometimes talking about certain kind of right-wing Christians, and they'll say, I just can't stand those people. And I'll go, why? And they'll go, they are so judgmental. Right? The ego mind loves to monitor other people's process. The ego mind, and what is the ego mind? The ego mind is the mind that has separated itself from love. It is that malignant thought. It is the thought that has wandered off into temptation. Wander not into temptation. Because we are always tempted, because the ego mind, there's no such thing, the Course in Miracles says, as a neutral thought. Your mind is so powerful. You can misuse it, the Course says, you can mismanage it, but you cannot decrease its power. So your mind will either be serving you or hurting you. Your mind will either be taking you and those around you straight to heaven, i.e., an awareness of oneness and the inner peace that that brings, not after you die. There is no time and there is no death right now. Or your mind will be taking you and those around you straight to hell, which is the condition, a name for what the ego would make of the present: anxiety, depression, anger, upset, and so forth. Right? Every single thought. That's why we talk about the power of the morning. Don't wander out. Don't wander out into the day not having prepared yourself inwardly. If you don't fill your house proactively with light, darkness will set in, neuroses, pathologies, fears, and so forth. You don't turn on that light, darkness will be there. Now, we go out into the world, and other people are traveling through the world with their craziness too, with their fears too, with their wounds too. So the universe is intentional, i.e. the mind of God, is intentional, just like the embryo becoming the baby, the acorn becoming the oak tree, the bud becoming the blossom. All nature is programmed to turn all things to their highest level of creative possibility, which means you to the man you're capable of being, you to the woman you're capable of being. And when we, free will, you know, the acorn doesn't have free will. So the acorn doesn't have a choice. You and I have a choice. We can let natural intelligence flow through us with every thought we think, every bit of behavior based on that thought, so that we are in the flow, in the zone, which will take us to the highest level of creative possibility, or we will say no. And how do we say no? We say no with every unforgiving thought we have. Love works miracles. A withhold of love deflects miracles. So all we talk about here is becoming miracle-minded. So you wake up in the morning and you get proactive. First of all, remember, with A Course in Miracles in terms of doing the exercises, but this would apply to any serious meditation or prayer work. The Course in Miracles says 5 minutes spent with the Holy Spirit in the morning is enough to guarantee he will be in charge of your thought forms throughout the day. So you prepare yourself. Like I said, you don't just take a bath and get rid of the dirt from your body, you purify your consciousness as well. Get proactive about it. Think of the people that you know you're going to meet today, employer, employee, colleagues, whomever, and you blast them with love before you even go out of the house. You think of the people, well, I don't know who they're going to be, but I'm going to blast it with love anyway. Anybody here teachers with classrooms? Okay, you do that before you go to school. You do that, you see God in whatever image appears to you around the arms of the children in your classroom before you go to class. You see God, Jesus, angels, light, whatever form is true for you, going through the halls before you go. Does that make sense? You actually do this. You actually use your mind. You don't just think about doing it, you do it. This is the muscle that we underuse. The Course in Miracles says you achieve so little because your mind is undisciplined. You are too tolerant of mind wandering. Ladies and gentlemen, we are too lazy about the way we use our minds. We need to become more vigorous. The word disciple and the word discipline come from the same root. To discipline yourself. The reason I love the Course in Miracles so much is because there is, every day, there's an actual lesson. It's 365 days worth of lessons, and the first half of the year is relinquishing, it's a psychological training in relinquishing a thought system based on fear, and the second half of the year is substituting it with a thought system based on love. The Course in Miracles does not teach you, this world doesn't mean anything, and there's nothing here that can provide you with happiness, and the more you try to go after it, the more despair you'll have. Bye. The Course doesn't leave you there. The Course doesn't say, there's nothing in this world that can make you happy, none of it's real, it's all just a mortal hallucination, and that's not who you are anyway, and stop there. It tells you that so that you can begin to develop your vision of what lies beyond this veil. And the first step in seeing beyond the veil is knowing that it's just a veil of illusion. And then we begin to see what lies beyond. Now, we already talked about what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not means you're a jerk, but I'm spiritual now, so I forgive you. Forgiveness, as the Course in Miracles talks about, is the realization that since only love is real, anything that you did that was not love did not actually happen. Remember we talked about how God loves you for who you are. God knows that whenever you did anything that was not love, it wasn't true. That's why the Course in Miracles says that we can interpret all that is not love as a call for love. Remember when I said early in the evening that the world is complicated, but truth is simple. And we get so complicated about what people did. Oh, and we have so many labels these days. The labels, the categorization. You know, I want to say something too. I don't know if it's people in this room, maybe on live stream. I got emails this week about something I said about empaths last week. And, you know, first of all, I want whoever wrote those emails to me, or postings on Facebook, or all the things that they were, I appreciate that, because I think it's very kind of you and honoring of you when you give me the chance to respond and just share your truth, as opposed to, sheep on blah. And sometimes I'm a little, I don't mean to be glib about these topics, and I certainly didn't mean to offend anyone, but this is an example of kind of what I meant. We have these categories today. Everybody's labeled. You're labeled with your disorders, and you're labeled with the things that make you better. And I'm not saying that there aren't empaths, but I didn't mean to show any disrespect, but I think we are all multidimensional beings. People say, well, there's a difference between an empath and being empathic. Well, who said really, other than the person who wrote that book? Okay? With all due respect, we are all so deep. And it doesn't serve us, I have this disorder, or I have this special, unique capability. Because all of those things drive us away. All of those things drive us away from the things that are the essential truth. You are, and this is the good news, that you're no different than anyone else. Once you realize that everybody has unlimited potential, then you realize that that's good news, that you are just like everyone else. So I don't mean to, sometimes when I make jokes or speak about the labels, it's not to say that we don't honor the extent to which, some people might have more of this or more of that. But forgiveness means we're seeing through all categories. We are developing the capacity to see through all that is not real, even the quote-unquote good facets of all that is not real. And that's why we don't want to show improper respect to the things that are wrong with you either. We coddle our neuroses these days. There's so many fancy names, and I do have concern about that. I think about when I was a child, and I think about some of the labels thrown at kids these days, and I go, yeah, well, that would be me. Yep, that would be me. Yep, that would be me. And then I think, but if I had grown up with those labels, my self-perception, kids, we've pathologized adolescence, we've pathologized everything. And so now kind of it's trying to counter that. Now everybody has, well, I'm special this way or I'm special that way. The Course in Miracles says all of the children of God and none of the children of God are special. All of that categorization, that is no different than perceiving guilt, because it's giving too much respect to that within this world which is not the ultimate truth about us. I was in Israel and Palestine a few weeks ago, and it was, this is my second trip to Israel, and one of the most powerful experiences of my life. And there are people with extreme positions regarding Israel and regarding Palestine, and neither of them help. The Course in Miracles says the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. It says God does not give you victory in battle, God lifts you above the battlefield. Now, when I was in Israel, I visited a school called Hand in Hand. And there are 7 of them. And it is where Arab children and Jewish children go to school together. And from the time they're very little, the Jewish children are taught Arabic, and the Arab children are taught Hebrew. And the Hebrew children are taught all about the Muslim holidays and to respect them. And the Muslim children are taught all about the Jewish holidays and to respect them. See, now this is interesting, going back to what I said before. Sometimes about race in America, people will say, well, we want a colorblind society. We don't want a colorblind society. We want a society in which we can all appreciate all the colors. Colorblind is a handicap. Why would we want a colorblind? We want to see how gorgeous it is to be black, how gorgeous it is to be white, how gorgeous it is to be Asian, how gorgeous it is to be Jewish, how gorgeous it is to be Muslim, how gorgeous it is to be Christian, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. So when you talk about forgiveness, forgiveness is where you seek to dwell, as Rumi said, out beyond all ideas of good and bad. Out of all ideas of right and wrong, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Unforgiveness is the way, which is by definition a perception of guilt, is a way that the ego mind, and the ego mind is that malignant consciousness, the ego mind not only separates itself from the ground of God, and remember, you cannot be comfortable outside the ground of God, and your ego mind not only separates itself from love, but then seeks to maintain the separation. And that's what Freud called neurosis. It is separation from self. And so the ego mind, this is the way the Course in Miracles uses the word ego. It's like the ancient Greeks used it. The ego mind, the Course in Miracles says, is like a scavenger dog. And it is always seeking any guilt. I don't like that look on your face. I don't know. There's just something about the way she's acting. There's something about her. The Course in Miracles says it's these little attacks, these little attacks, these little attacks, these little judgments that we make all the time. There is no such thing as a neutral thought, and all thought creates form at some level. So to say that your function is forgiveness is to say that that is your function as the light of the world. So your life is completely different when you stand on miracle-minded ground. You know who you are, and you know why you're there. I want to read to you a little bit of what the Course in Miracles says. What is forgiveness? This is from the workbook. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. And by the way, we can do yeah buts. Everything I'm saying here, theoretically, you'd go, yeah, I get it, based on everything we've said here. If some sentence doesn't make sense, raise your hand and go, yeah, but, okay? Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred, right? Because if it's not love, it didn't happen. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin. And in that view are all your sins forgiven. What is sin except a false idea about God's Son? Forgiveness merely sees its falsity and therefore lets it go. What then is free to take its place is now the will of God. Now, the will of God, the thinking of love. The thinking of love goes through time. It's not a particle, it's a wave. So if I go out into the world, you're going to go on any given day. The Course in Miracles says each of us has a highly individualized curriculum. Everyone you meet, you're supposed to meet. Everybody you're supposed to meet, you will meet. Nothing's accidental that way. So you're going to go outside your door. There might be a casual encounter. There might be someone that you know for a certain period of time. There might be a lifetime assignment. All of these relationships are assignments. Now, in any given instant that once again, you set your intention in the morning. My intention is to be the light of the world. I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to blast everybody with love the way I go out. My only function is to be the light of the world. Forgiveness and my function are the same thing, and the only way I can be happy is to perform my function. And the ego mind says, oh, that's great. You'll make no money. You won't have a good job. But really, it's the only way good things will happen to you. Because it's like in the Sermon on the Mount, be ye not anxious for tomorrow. If God would so take care of the lilies of the field. You think that the universe that knows how to keep planets revolving around the sun, and embryos turn into babies and acorns turn into oak tree, doesn't know how to make your rent? The problem is that we fall for this, do I want to serve God and serve love? Or do I want to be happy? That's a virulent thought. Rather, you realize only if I serve love, if I'm serving love, that means I want to stand within my own skin and my own power, because the power of God, the unlimited power of God, is within you. If you separate yourself from the power of God, you're separating yourself from your own power. It's one. And so you're going to go out into the day and know that everybody I meet is going to give me an opportunity to forgive. So where I'm already loving, could I take it a little further? If I'm already good, could I rise to the occasion a little more? That's what sometimes if you ask yourself, like on a scale of 1 to 10, this is about life in general in terms of all the things we're talking about. I'm not going to ask you to, now say it to the person next to you or anything like that. I'm just going to ask you to say it to yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? I often, when I ask myself that, I come 7, 8, all right? And that's why I think a lot of us, if we're honest with ourselves, 7 or 8, okay, that 3, it's time. Because the planet can't change. The planet is a reflection of who we are. We're pretty good. The gap between who we are now and who we have to be to turn the world around, that's what we're talking about here. And we can only contribute to the transformation of the planet. We can only help the world become a 7 if we're at a 7. And we need to be standing forth as conduits for that which would transform the world into a 10. And so where I'm good, let me be great. I was nice, but maybe I should send a thank you note. I was nice and I said, I hope you feel better, but maybe I should send a follow-up email. I was good, I did what my boss asked, but maybe I should go an extra mile. And then those places where we know in our hearts we're not making it. We're holding a grudge. We're not forgiving. We're not as kind as we should be. And we hold on to these things and we coddle these things. And that is your self-hatred posing as your self-love. That's what the ego is. The ego is holding on to these things. It's the cross we hold on to. By holding you on the cross, I'm held onto the cross. that cross where you're stuck and you can't fly free. And so forgiveness, the Course in Miracles says, is the function of our lives, and it is the only way to be happy. I want to read to you from this lesson. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. It is your forgiveness that will bring the world of darkness to the light. It is your forgiveness that lets you recognize the light in which you see. Forgiveness is the demonstration that you are the light of the world. Through your forgiveness does the truth about yourself return to your memory. Therefore, in your forgiveness lies your salvation. Illusions about yourself and the world are one. That is why all forgiveness is a gift to yourself. Your goal is to find out who you are by having denied your identity by attacking creation and its creator. Now you are learning how to remember the truth. For this attack must be replaced by forgiveness, so that thoughts of life may replace thoughts of death. Remember that in every attack, and the Course in Miracles says when you're about to judge somebody or have an attack thought about someone, by the way, everybody subconsciously knows everything. So behavioral modification is not enough. We've all had people come up to us. It's like when people say, I don't mean this as a judgment, but, and then they like judge the hell out of you. And also some people who like smile at you like this, you know, and it's kind of like, I don't get angry because, you know, I do the Course in Miracles. These people are dangerous. Not enough to put your knife behind your back, you know what I mean? So behavioral, and everybody feels everything. So when you enter into a room subconsciously, you know how sometimes you can feel it. Other people can feel it from you too. So, you know, you go into a job interview, I don't care who you are, where you went to school, how good you are, there's somebody out there who has a resume as good as you. And people are ultimately going to hire you. You know why they're going to hire you? Because they like you. You know why they're going to promote you? I just have a feeling about you. They like it. They can just feel your energy. Your energy. Hello? Okay. Nothing the body... Hold on a moment. Remember that in every attack, you call upon your own weakness, while each time you forgive, you call upon the strength of Christ in you. Christ being a name for that power, for that light that we share. Do you not then begin to understand what forgiveness will do for you? It will remove all sense of weakness, strain, and fatigue from your mind. It will take away all fear and guilt and pain. It will restore the invulnerability and power God gave His Son to your awareness. Let us be glad to begin and end this day by practicing today's idea and to use it as frequently as possible throughout the day. It will help to make the day as happy for you as God wants you to be, and it will help those around you as well as those who seem to be far away in space and time to share this happiness with you. As often as you can, closing your eyes if possible, say to yourself today, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. I would fulfill my function that I may be happy. Then devote a minute or two to considering your function and the happiness and release it will bring you. Let related thoughts come freely, for your heart will recognize these words, and in your mind is the awareness they are true. Should your attention wander, repeat the idea and add, I would remember this because I want to be happy. So we talked earlier, and Adam, if you are here, you might want to come up. Thank you, Adam Isidore, thank you so much. So we talked about how, you know, I think of myself kind of like an aerobics instructor. I'm going through these moves with you. It's how I'm trying to stay in shape myself. I can go through them with you. I can't go through them for you. So when it comes to spiritual exercise, it's one thing for you to know the principle. It's another to apply it. And that's where we go now. You know, a lot of times, you know, we've all heard the answers are within you. Yeah, the answers are within you, but you haven't asked within you a lot of times. And that's why prayer and meditation, it's the practice of bringing up all the wisdom that is already there. Your subconscious knows everything you need. It's all there. Now remember, every time you love, you are literally working a miracle. Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. Every time you withhold love, and in every way you withhold love, you are deflecting a miracle that would otherwise occur. Is that clear? All the ways in which you are withholding love from anyone in your life, there are all these miracles that you have not had. The Course in Miracles says they are being held in trust for you until you are ready to receive them. If your dreams have not come true, if your life isn't working, your relationships aren't working, your career's not working, the money, the health, whatever, worldly voices will not be saying to you, well, who have you not forgiven? But the Course does. There is tremendous psychic toxicity in unforgiveness. There's tremendous psychic poison in the withhold of love. And so, as we do this, and I just want to say a word before we do this, a lot of the unforgiveness, it's just little things we just haven't lightened up. Other times it's hard. Within the terms of the world, someone might have betrayed you. They might have abused you. They might have hurt you. There is no doubt about that. The Course in Miracles is about transcendence, but it's not about denial. It's about positive denial. It's not where you pretend something didn't happen. It's that where you look through it and you deny its power over you. The Course in Miracles does not deny the pain that someone might have caused you. It simply denies the idea that you are permanently at the effect of whatever they did to you. And to the extent to which you identify with what they did to you, remember, enlightenment, that shift from body identification to spirit identification, if you identify with what someone did to you, to that extent you will be at the effect of what they did to you. You might think somebody, or might even think maybe somebody did take money from you. Well, the universe says, the Course in Miracles would indicate the moment it happened, the universe was already programmed to get that money back and more. But your bitterness and anger is actually holding back the miracle by which it would all be made okay. Does that make sense? All right, so for those cases where it's not as simple as, oh, okay, I forgive, the Course in Miracles, and this is a whole other lecture that we will not be going into in detail, but know that you are not without help. The Course in Miracles says your good intentions are not enough, your willingness is everything. So if you say, God, I am willing to forgive this person, but I'm so triggered and I'm so hurt by what happened, I need some help here. And the Course in Miracles says, think what you're thinking about that person that God would not be thinking. Think what God would be thinking that you are not thinking. And if you say, I am willing to see the innocence in this person. I can't see the innocence in this person. It's too big what happened, but I am willing. Then the Course in Miracles indicates celestial help will be given you. The Holy Spirit will be there to help you if you are willing to see the innocence where you can't right now. Does that make sense? All right, let's unload some serious psychic burdens that we know we are carrying because we haven't forgiven this person or this person or this person or this person. Take a deep breath, make yourself comfortable, and close your eyes. And now, as we lay down the burdens of the world, and enter together into the sacred place of harmony and peace, the golden temple of God within, we now place in God's hands to be taken from us, that we might be unburdened of it, the resentment, the anger, the bitterness, the fear, the unforgiveness, the judgment, the attacks, the blame, the criticism, the negativity towards anyone for any reason. For in those thoughts and of those thoughts and by those thoughts, we are enchained. We are held back. We are imprisoned by our own minds. And so it is that we now call to mind the people who we know have not received the fullness of our love and the grace of our forgiveness. And we now see their face or their faces. The first person, we now look at that person and we realize the ways we have judged them for their behavior. And from the spirit of innocence within us, we bow before the spirit, the innocence within them. And we give to God to take away from us our unforgiving thoughts. And now the next person. It might be a family member, it might be a friend. It might be someone we know or someone that we don't know. Someone whose behavior we feel has negatively impacted us. Recognizing that our hearts have been tightened, have been shut, have been closed to them. We now realize that by shutting off our love, we have denied ourselves such miracles. And the spirit of love and innocence in us now bows before the spirit of love and innocence in them. And as I speak these words, allow the people, whoever comes up for you, their faces, their bodies, their names, and grant them now the love and the blessing you have denied them. I bless you, brother, with the love of God. I bless you, sister, with the love of God. Say their name within you. Grant them blessing. Grant them peace. Free them of the burden of your perception of their guilt, that you yourself might now be free of its effects. Unchain them that you might be unchained. Unhook them that you might be unhooked. Release them that you might be released. Give to God, place in His hands all attack thoughts towards anyone for any reason. Feel the poison leave your psyche. Feel the toxicity leave your body. Feel the fear leave your life. And now with your inner eye, rove the inner landscape of everyone you know, everyone with whom you have any contact, those you have met, those you know, and those you shall meet in the future. And assume your function as light of the world. Send your love and your forgiveness. See past the illusion of lovelessness and fear to the love and to the light in everyone, that you might see it within yourself. And now allow one person's face to show him or herself in your mind's eye. Someone it might be that you love, it might be someone you like, it might be someone that you don't like. Whoever it is, it's perfect. And send them love from every aspect of who you are. Feel yourself at one with them. This is the love of God. And so it is. Together, we all say, Amen. Thank you, Adam. Adam Isidore. You know, I was once doing an AIDS support group, and a young man said to me, "You mean I have to forgive everybody?" And I remember saying to him, "I don't know. What do you have? You have the flu or do you have AIDS? Because if you only have the flu, just forgive a few people. But if you have AIDS, you might want to take all the medicine." And that's where we get off, isn't it? That we decide whether or not someone is worthy of our forgiveness. So as you practice this is just one of these things. You know, the principles of spirituality are like a tincture. You know, just a little bit goes a long way. And the Course in Miracles is filled with these aha moments. So I hope that there are things that you hear in these lectures that just as you go through your week, once again, remember, the important thing is not what happens here. The important thing is not what happens while we're in the lecture. What's important when you hear someone who speaks about spiritual principle is your own practical experience. One of the things the Course in Miracles talks about a lot is how the Course is a practical course, and attested to by your own experience. And the only reason you should quote-unquote believe any of it is if it works for you. And you can't know if it works for you unless you try it. So I hope that there will be times during your week this week where you will think to look at another person and bless them with the love of God where before you might have held on to judgment. Okay, let's talk about anything that you want to talk about. We have microphones and cool. Okay, yes, sir. I see somebody over there.
Hello. My name is John.
Hello,
and
John.
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. And first, I just want to really thank you for all the wonderful things that you do.
Thank you.
So, what I want to talk about is my experience of moving from, I guess, some deep suffering to enlightenment, or some recent. And when I was 21, my dear brother Greg experienced death through suicide. And it was a huge shock to my family because he really didn't have any of the traditional sort of indicators or signs. The weekend before he died, he helped me build a loft in my dorm room so I could put my desk underneath it. We had a wonderful time. Then my mother was very heartbroken, so she died soon after. And then shortly after that, my father died. Then with these 3 deaths, my sister Cindy we were all very upset. She then committed suicide. So we had these 4 deaths very quickly. And the way that I sort of managed it was to really get back into school. I really delved into my career, but I carried with me a really deep sadness that since Greg died, I really have had a hard time managing my weight. That seems trivial, but so after working, I read your book, A Course in Weight Loss. And in that book, you mention how we carry emotion and memory and information in our bodies. And I thought, well, maybe that's the missing link. But then last Wednesday, I was here, and you mentioned David Kessler's workshop on Sunday and Monday. You know, this is like, I just read this book. Now, here's something where I can sort of actualize how to move this grief out of my Monday. They were different things. And David worked with me after the workshop on Monday, and it was really, really helpful and meaningful. So I do meditate each day. And so when I got home Tuesday morning, so yes, usual meditation, and I also have read a lot by Debbie Ford. Meditation, sometimes I have conversations with people like you and Debbie just in my mind, imagining.
Depends on if that's before coffee in the morning or after coffee.
Yeah, and since it's my own consciousness giving the answers, it's, you're right, the answers are within. So my experience yesterday was I left the workshops and I still talking to Debbie, and she says, well, John, what's your request? And I said, well, I really want to be at peace with Greg's death. It just never made sense to me. I don't know why. I can't, the happy things in my life, I can't really be happy about, et cetera.
Right. Okay.
So what Debbie said to me, or what I said to me, whatever, mystery with that. And I don't know why I had never thought of that before. But the moment I said yes to that, it was of the oughtas, the should'ves, could'ves, what ifs disappeared. And not just those that I gave myself, but those things that I had blamed my family. They disappeared. And I experienced, I really think the most And what I'd really struggled with, because Greg was really a beautiful man,
Yeah, all right.
is how do I make this an act of love,
Okay.
or a gift? So then I thought, so I started reading the Course of Miracles. It really was with a new sense of mystery and awe. It's really changed how I even see things. And I was like, that's the gift. That's the gift.
Every time we say a prayer, every time we meditate, that's really the point of meditation and prayer, is that you think more deeply. I was moving too fast. I was thinking too shallowly. And when we've talked about how the world is constantly bombarding us with useless information, we are being trained to think very. When we do meditate and we do pray and we do the kind of work that you've been doing, we start having deeper thoughts. Life, you can play life deep or you can play life shallow. And you have to consciously decide, and there are lifestyle decisions involved in this. You have to consciously decide to carve out, in your experience, a space for deeper thinking. And when you did, you had a thought, like even that concept of mystery, beyond the labels. Because the suicide of two siblings, this is full-tilt catastrophe. This is the mind having to accept what any rational mind. There is no concept you can put on it to make it okay. The only place where you can find peace is in a realm beyond concept. Now, I do want to point out, from a Course in Miracles perspective, that the Course in Miracles goes beyond that after death you still live on. That the body, as I said earlier, is just a suit of clothes. So there's something here, as difficult as it is, about respecting the decision of those who chose to lay their body down. Now, life itself, from a Course in Miracles perspective, goes on forever. So a chapter in your relationship with your brother, with your sister, with your parents, a chapter is over, but the book itself, from a Course perspective, never ends. So you are now in a chapter where you're incarnate and they're not. Your set might not pick up that channel, but they're still broadcasting. Does that make sense? And and that is, in that case, what forgiveness means. Because forgiveness means that we extend our perception beyond what the physical eyes perceive to what the heart knows to be true. Would you like us to say a prayer with you, John?
Thank you. Yes, that would be
We'd
great.
love that. Okay, and I'm sure that John is not the only person here who is dealing with that reality in our lives of people who we love, who either have passed through that experience or might be passing through it or whatever. So let's pray. Dear God, we join with John as he places the spirit of his brother, his sister, and his parents in your hands. We also place in your hands, dear God, our relationship with anyone who we love and with whom we wish to feel peace, their having moved beyond the veil of death. May John and may our inner eye be opened, that we might see beyond the illusion of death to the eternal nature of life and love. For whom God hath brought together, nothing and no one, not even death itself, can put asunder. May John and may his family members be comforted. May a great wave of peace descend upon them all. Bring blessing and peace, dear God, to all here who mourn and grieve, that we might know there is no death. And so it is together, we all say, amen. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thanksgiving Day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanksgiving Day, I had a massive stroke. I was found on the floor of my apartment, unconscious. I'd been stroking for 3 days. I was paralyzed from the waist down.
Put the mic a little closer to your mouth so everybody can hear
Sorry,
you.
I was paralyzed from the waist down for 2 weeks. I was on life support for 6 whole days. I have been studying you and Gabrielle Bernstein for 2 years now, and honestly, the reason why I think I came through all this was because of clean living, and even my neurologists call me a miracle. I can walk, I can talk, I'm back to work, I moved back to New York City. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you. And through all this, I have had the grace of being able to forgive a whole bunch of things in my life. Be 48 years old and go live with your parents again. Trust me, you learn a whole lot about forgiveness. But my question is this: when I ask for forgiveness from others and I don't get it, how do I forgive myself?
In every major religious or spiritual path, there is the concept of the atonement. In Catholicism, people confess as they go along. In Judaism, the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, is the holiest day of the year. In Alcoholics Anonymous, there's the taking of the fearless moral inventory, where you admit the exact nature of your wrong, you admit your character defects. This issue of owning where you got it wrong is absolutely essential. A Course in Miracles presents the idea of atonement much like it's a cosmic reset button. Every action has a reaction. So every mistake that we have made continues to bear fruit, because every action has a reaction. The only way to stop the trajectory, the mistaken trajectory, is to change it on the level of cause. And that is what atonement is. So the Course in Miracles says you pay a very heavy price for not taking 100% responsibility for your life. The price we pay is that we won't be able to change it. So when we have made a mistake, obviously if we apologize to someone else, it helps if they will accept the apology. Sometimes they won't. But when we atone to God, when we are willing to say, I get it, I did that wrong. And on page 90 of the Course, does somebody have the Course right here with you? I have one up on the pulpit, but maybe if you have one with you, okay. Basically it says you go back to the moment at which the mistake occurred. You go back to that moment and you get it. You go, I did it, and I know that I decided wrongly. And how do you know that you decided wrongly? Thank you so much. You know you decided wrongly because you're not at peace. Thank you, Wendy. Now, this is an interesting thing, this issue of the experience of inner peace. You know you've made a right decision. Somebody says, how do you know you've made the right decision? You're at peace about it. And how do you know you made the wrong decision or you're making the wrong decision? It just doesn't feel right. You really do have an inner counter, right? So here it says, you go back to that moment. This is what the Course in Miracles calls an undoing process. We want to undo the karmic consequences that are held in place by your mistake. It says, the first step in the undoing is to recognize that you actively decided wrongly, but can as actively decide otherwise. So that's what grown-ups do. We own our errors. But in the realm of God, which lies beyond time and space, it doesn't matter if you got it wrong before, because time does not exist. So you decided wrongly in the past, but you can decide differently now. Be very firm with yourself in this and keep yourself fully aware that the undoing process, which does not come from you, is nevertheless within you because God placed it there. Your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made and give it over to the atonement in peace. Say this to yourself as sincerely as you can, remembering that the Holy Spirit will respond fully to your slightest invitation. That's another big one in the Course. The Holy Spirit will respond fully to your slightest invitation. Remember when we were talking earlier tonight about how you're having, let's say, a difficult time forgiving someone? If you'll just say, God, I'm willing to get it right. You can't call on the power of the Spirit without it responding fully to your slightest invitation. Okay, you go to the moment at which you made the mistake, and this is what you say. I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. I choose to let Him by allowing Him to decide for God for me. Now, you don't want to be someone, you know how it's kind of in vogue in certain circles these days to say, you can't make a mistake? That's the biggest crock I've ever heard. Of course you can. The Holocaust was a mistake, okay? Slavery was a mistake. The invasion of Iraq was a mistake. Mistakes, terrible things on this planet happen. So only a sociopath feels no remorse. So you don't want to be someone who has no conscience. And the way the Course in Miracles talks about conscience, it talks about how discomfort is temporarily aroused. But it also says that if you hold on to the guilt, I'm so awful, I feel so guilty, that actually becomes the ego, kind of a reason to stay stuck. So when it's in the hands of the Holy Spirit, you do feel appropriate remorse. But the point is to get about the work of putting it in God's hands. Now, several things can come from this, because you want to remember what I said earlier tonight, we don't exercise the muscle of our minds enough. We're not active enough. And one of the things you want to be active of realizing is, as the Course in Miracles says, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. The universe is a perfect ecosystem. It's like in nature. Nature wastes nothing. God uses everything, even your mistakes, when you give them to Him. Number one, it helps. You thought you don't make mistakes? You know, when you go, how could I have done it, how could I have done it? It keeps you humble. I know sometimes I'll be about to judge somebody, and then I'll remind myself that that's nothing compared to what I did. Right? So the first thing that happens when you start owning your errors is you become more humble. You become more aware that you can make them, even big ones. It makes you more dedicated to doing the work so that tomorrow maybe you won't do something that stupid. And it also makes you more merciful towards other people when they make mistakes, like I said. You become less what a beautiful word mercy is. You kind of don't even know what it means until you've experienced it. Until you've seen ways that you fell down and the universe just helped you get back up. And I think when you feel that the universe has been merciful towards you, you become more merciful towards others. Mercy is an extraordinary thing because it doesn't mean they didn't do it. It just means you have some mercy. What a profound concept it is. And that the universe is merciful, and that no matter what you've done. You know, I know a woman whose son was murdered. And she now works, she goes into people who have been convicted of murder, who are working on themselves and seeking to apologize and she's talked about how this work has saved her. And she was talking about this one man who was talking about how I realize, about her parents, no matter what I do, no matter how many years I serve in prison, I can't ever give them their daughter back. And he's going through his own profound things, and she's got this foundation. Turned on that show, Lock Up, and there were these people in for life for murder, and they were doing origami, Japanese origami, and there was this man making all these beautiful little cranes, and he said something like, after everything I've done in my life, I like to think I can still create something beautiful too. And I think shows like that or experiences like that really demonstrate that no matter what we have done, God never turns his back on us. You want to take this one for now? Thank you.
Oh, hey.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, cool. Okay, hi.
Hey. Oh, should I stand? Or?
Yes, sure, stand.
Oh, hey. I like to say that, well, I flew in this morning from Seattle just to see you.
You flew from Seattle?
I did.
How'd you fly from Seattle? I was in LA last week.
I know. I found that you were coming to New York.
That wasn't the only thing you came to New York.
Well, I'm from Jersey, so I got to go visit family. But
thank you. Thank you if I was any little part of it. Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
I knew that you were going to be here in New York, and I was like, oh, man. So I get to see my family and see Marianne.
Thank
you. You always have a way of saying things that really resonate with me, and you're kind of sort of like a Prozac for me, believe it or not.
Well, I would prefer me to Prozac for you, actually.
And speaking of which, I work in the social service field, and that's a field that you don't go into for, to make a ton of money or for fame or riches or glory, but you kind of do it possibly because there's some commitment to
ministry. It's a holy work.
Yeah, and although I never saw myself, I never had any aspirations as a teenager, just saying I want to work with all sorts of populations and deal with all their baggage and stuff, for little or no pay. But I can't see myself doing anything else. And and I feel we're taught all these kind of things about like client privilege and confidentiality and stuff, and read.
Put the mic a little closer to your mouth.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We have to read the client's case file before we, and that's something I don't like to do because I think if I do that, it kind of sets up a
I agree. I hear you.
Before I work with them, and I like to get to know the person, like on my own terms and on my own level. And also in this field, there's a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
Like you was talking about identification.
Right.
We've become a culture where we've gotten comfortable with like labels, manic depressive, all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, man, like it's so easy to point out somebody else's stuff, but like how often do I see that in myself? And and speaking of identification, that's something I've always struggled with. Like, what if I were born a different, from a different class or race or gender or something? Would life be different for me? Or, like, did I have to have these certain cards dealt to me?
Okay, is that basically the question?
I guess my question is, I don't know what my question is.
Okay.
Just like,
well, I'm going to decide what I think is very cool to answer. I think there's something very powerful about honoring our incarnation. I think there's something very powerful about when I was talking before about your assignment, your color, your sex, your sexuality. There's something very profound about it. You're being a black man. There is today, obviously throughout our history, today as much as at any time, for African Americans to be very alert, very responsible, the ancestors, the descendants, what has happened, what is happening, what do we owe our kids, what do we have to be aware of, what you forget, what you do not forget, what you forgive, but you still don't forget, right? So if you assume, as the Course in Miracles says, each of us has a highly individualized curriculum. If you assume it's perfect, if you assume that it's perfect, then you don't live within it, oh, if only I was that. Because the part of the mind that is ever grasping for a reality beyond or different the reality you're experiencing now is the mind of the enemy, right? Even when you've spoken a bit here, you mentioned it more than once. You don't do what you do to make fame and fortune. Have you read Jonathan Kozol or Kozol? How do you pronounce Jonathan Kozol? Kozol? So how many books do you think he sold? You don't know what anything is going to lead to. And as far as you're saying, even talking socioeconomically, the fact that any of us in America would feel that we do honorable work, meaningful work, seriously important work, and have to think in terms of economic stress is simply a point that something that should make you kick ass politically and elect people. So, and this is why things like free college tuition, free public university matters. This is why universal health care matters. This is why resisting income inequality and the fact that we have siphoned off huge amounts of material resources into the hands of a very few. That's why. You know, this is extremely important to simply be aware and say, yes, that is the way it is, but actually in the United States it shouldn't be that way. And you know, hope is born of participation in hopeful solutions. So when you talk about the kind of work that you do, this is not work. You know, one of you say, well, I get that you don't do this to have a lot. But really, it's kind of the opposite. How crazy and insane is a society in which people doing that important work are that economically stressed? That's really, so everything, so then you say, whatever it is perfect for what I need to learn and how I can contribute. Does that make sense?
Can I say this real fast?
Yeah.
Though, although I don't make a ton of money,
Yeah.
I have done more travel throughout the world than I have ever done living in New Jersey. Or
Well,
living
hello.
So it's a trade-off. I'd rather do what I do than be on Wall Street making $1 million and
Well,
being
and if you
stressed
were
and
working
carrying
on Wall Street making $1 million, you know, that's beautiful too. If somebody's working, I mean, who knows what that person is doing. I think the point is that there is no socioeconomic group is holier or less holy. That's not what this is about. This is no socioeconomic group has a monopoly on joy or on suffering or holiness or lack of holiness. But I think the main point there is that wherever we are, that's it. To stand within that knowing, as you're in a career that's extremely important, and to own the power of that, you know? It's not like you're better than anyone else, but neither are you worse than anyone else. We have created a culture in which we're all so eager to get more or get different, as opposed to standing in power and in dignity where we are. And if we are in a situation where we stand in power, we stand in dignity, but we see that there are external conditions that make it difficult, that make us have to live on edges of survival more than we should, then the key is to look around. Is that true of you too? Is it true of you too? If it's true of you too, and then to own that part of the incarnation that is so grand is that we are Americans, and that's what democracy gives us. You know, people who were slaves, that's why the abolitionist movement arose. People who were women without the right to vote, that's why women's suffrage arose. Those who were living under institutional racism and white supremacy in the American South, that's why the civil rights movement arose. We're part of a stream. We're part of a stream not only of Americans, but of people in every country throughout the world who are here not to be at the effect of that which is less than, but to be transformers of that which is less than, so that because we were alive on this earth, things became much better. Does that make sense? Let's say our final prayer. Thank you, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. That is so sweet of you, New York. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm feeling very at home, and I thank you so much. And to those of you on live stream, thank you as well. And now let's say our final prayer. And also we have a few people to pray for. Okay? Let us pray. Dear God, as we say our farewell this evening, let us take this moment and send our love and peace to each other. We send our love and our peace to everyone in this room, and our love and our peace to everyone else who is watching this via live stream. We extend that now and send our love and our peace to every living thing. We pray for Megan and for Jeffrey, for Khalid, for Paul Drake and his family. We pray for Dylan and for Freddie, for Nick, for Shay, and for Mick. We take this moment to place in God's hands every burden, every fear, every question. And we dedicate ourselves more fully to the light that we are and the function we are given. And now go forth in confidence and go forth in peace. For there are angels to your left and there are angels to your right. There are angels in front of you and angels behind you, angels above you and angels below. God himself has paved a path of light before you. Wherever you go, God goes with you, for God is in your mind. Dear God, please make us the people you would have us be, that we might do as you would have us do. And so it is. Together, we all say, amen. God bless you, everybody.